Hello, people. This week I read House Harkonnen by Brian Herbert. That's a big factor. That is a huge factor. I like this art though. Look at that art. Dune, House Harkonnen. Now I gotta say, as far as printings go, this Bantam Spectra, it's fantastic. There's a little watermark impression here. I don't know. You can't see it. You can feel it. All the chapters have, what is that? This cool little border. There's plenty of maps, right? I say there's plenty of maps and show you one map. There's plenty of maps, people. Took me a second to get to them. See, this book's heavy and awkward to hold, okay? In any case, the printing's fine. Oh, let's see if I can get through it. This book, okay. The printing is fine. The science fiction is present. This book almost killed me. This book actually almost killed me. It's so bad. Ugh. Okay. First, before you ever get one of these Brian Herbert books, okay, you have to realize that you probably shouldn't get the book. If you read every one of Frank Herbert's other books and then wait like 3 years, then maybe you could get these books and be all right. Because what they do is terrible. What they do is terrible to what you know in your mind from Dune. Okay, because that's what it's all. That's why, what is it? That's why Dune comes in so large on the cover, okay? We all know why these things sell. Because they're related, even tangentially, to Dune. That's why I got it. That's why I was interested in it. But it isn't anywhere near Frank Herbert, right? Frank Herbert's a genius. And I'm not holding that against anyone. It just is what it is. The book starts with Pardot Kynes. This is the planetologist that the former emperor sent, who's now on Dune, and got it in his head to freaking terraform the entire planet. For no real reason, but that's for the last book. For this book, he sort of takes a back seat, and we start leaning more on Liet, his son, who ends up in the Dune books. That's a lot of these. Oh, that person ends up in the book. Oh, that moment comes in later. And I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with that. It's how that thing is existing in this book. I understand that people lived and things happened before the Dune books. I mean, I don't have a problem with it whatsoever. I'm sure they were all doing stuff. But you got to show me that stuff in, a way that links up, if that's what you want to do. So our Liet, he's young, he's fighting Harkonnens, he gets older, him and his friend fall in love with the same lady, now they're Fremen. Do they have a duel to the death? Right? Do they have a duel to the death to see who gets the lady's hand? No! They ride sandworms and have a race. And I could feel like the author are Brian Herbert or Kevin J. Anderson, I'm not sure which. I feel like one of them had a bit of an aversion to the Fremen killing people, at least killing each other. He was fine with them killing Harkonnens. Everyone's okay killing Harkonnens. He was fine with Harkonnens killing people. Right? So it's not that he's afraid of things dying. But I got the sense that he thought if they fought each other, it'd make the winner a bad guy. Does that make sense? That's the sense I got when I was reading it. It was sitting there, right? And you're like, well, everyone doesn't have to duel. Like, no. But these people, the Fremen, literally live on a planet where they think, or their god, Shai-Hulud, they think their god, I mean, they treat a giant worm that eats them as a god. I mean, that's what the worm does. It doesn't ever talk to them. It just eats them if they walk wrong. If they walk wrong, it'll eat them. Right? This is the level of people we're dealing with. So, death isn't abnormal to them. They're not strangers to it. Even the little kids kill, right? Why? Because if you don't, the desert will get you. It's the lesson we've learned from Shai-Hulud. So why, when it comes to love, wouldn't they just go right to a duel? It's not that big a deal. May the best man win, and we'll have the best children, and on everything goes. Your water will go to the tribe. I'll get some water rings. Not that big a deal. Nah, can't have it. And in fact, I don't see any kind of dueling, infighting, any viciousness from the Fremen at all. They're just like super soldiers that can be hyper aware of everything. And I'm like, I guess that makes sense. The very end, the Pardok Kynes comes back. And of course, he has to break character at the very, very end. He thinks everything's settled. Because he randomly wanted to be a planetologist, but now everything's going to be fine. That work's going to continue. And then his whole brain shifts to then caring about his family. There's some kind of earthquake or something in the cave, and he goes back for something for his kid, which I swear in 2 books he's never done. He goes back for something for his kid and gets dead. It happens a lot in the book too. A lot of character breaking things for moments. We then cut to Gurney Halleck. I love Gurney Halleck, the real Gurney Halleck. I will say that I have a feeling that our authors don't understand the benefits, financially speaking, of slavery. Okay? And again, this sounds harsh because it is harsh. But the Dune books are not in our time. They are 10,000 years in the future. Yes? Where if you see time as a pool where evolution will try what works and what doesn't work dies in the pool, right? That's 10,000 years of trial and error has gotten humanity to this point in existence. Assassinations have become normal. Poisonings have become normal. Propaganda is normal. That's and it's the same way we have an ag department now. They have a propaganda wing. You see what I mean? They're very advanced. They've gone through these issues. They have slaves on Giddy Prime. Okay? Now, the Greeks had slaves. The Spartans had slaves. It's why some of the stuff in Greece was so nice. The dudes had time to sit around and think. They had time to sit around and write poetry because they weren't farming all day. Why? Because they had slaves to do it. And the slaves didn't get a voice. And the slaves were off to the side. And all the Athenians just looked at each other like, we're great. And they had these conversations. I say that because you get to Gurney Halleck, and he's just somehow a citizen of Giddy Prime for no reason whatsoever. Same Duncan Idaho was in the first book. And I'm like, bro, there's 10,000, I think it might be 10,000, 100,000 worlds in the Imperium. There's a lot of places these people could be. Why everybody got to be from Giddy Prime? Side note, I guess, He's a citizen on Giedi Prime, not a slave. And apparently the Harkonnens just roam about all of Giedi Prime, just messing with people, killing them, stabbing them, kidnapping them, beating them up. You know, like it's an entire police state. And I'm like, they wouldn't do that. They would not, like, even... There's always too many people, right? There's always too many people. It's never... You always rule by them liking you. Because if you just hammer people, then there's always a revolution. The French Revolution, right? The Spanish Revolution. The American Revolution. You can't press on people. History's shown us this. You could trick them, right? That's probably what they do. And they trick them by giving them nice crap. There'd be high-end jobs to have, financial jobs, etc. Arts and craftsy type jobs. These people would love the Harkonnens on Giedi Prime. They would. And they would either not know or choose to not know that on X part of the planet were massive slave pits. Right? And where would they get these slaves? They're Harkonnens. They go all out in the Imperium, grab people, and make them slaves. Because that's what you do. It'd be real easy. You'd make jack tons of money. No problem. But instead, we have them just bashing people's heads in for no reason. Right? Gurney Halleck being one of them. Set up wrong. Now, in the books, Dune, the real books, Gurney Halleck is a legendary sword master. What did they say? He's lived through battles where only the greatest survive. Right? It's this kind of tiered... The greatest fighters barely survived this battle. And he was one of them that lived through it. Meaning he probably took some damage along the way. Right? Legendary. Other people know him. Other people in the Imperium know this person. And so I'm like, how do you get to that stage? Again, Roman times. In Roman times, you might have started fighting grown men. And you have a sword and a shield. At the age of 15, you might have started fighting. You see? Add 25 years to that. How good of a fighter are you? Hardened. Experienced. Gurney Halleck was a day laborer, essentially breaking rocks. I guess it made him strong. Till his sister got taken. Then he does basically nothing about it. He can't. He doesn't know where she is. He yells at a Harkonnen. They beat him up. He gets a clue that she's somewhere. He goes to try and rescue her. He gets beat up. This is like... He just runs in, gets beat up, runs in, gets beat up, till she ends up dead. Right? She was in a pleasure house. Forced prostitution. Because Harkonnens are so evil. And I'm like, yes, they're evil, but... My God, they're not stupid. He's just an idiot. He's just an idiot until he finally leaves, he escapes the planet, and ends up a smuggler. And from smuggler, somehow ends up on House Atreides, and then they sort of like him. I mean, this is the dumbest backstory I've ever had for a legendary soldier. The dumbest. Nothing about Gurney Halleck's early life makes him able to beat Sardaukar. You know what I mean? Nothing about it. Day laborer, you don't go from day laborer to legendary sword master. You just don't. A good chunk of the book is Duncan Idaho's swordmaster training on Ganaz. This is 8 years, mind you. The Atreides sent him as a young guy to get training from all these sword masters to be a battle master. The various trainings don't bug me, right? They're your classic kung fu, sleep out in the heat, stack rocks, this kind of thing. Fight 5 alligators with a stick. This kind of, it's the fun kung fu stuff. So the training itself doesn't bother me. That's not the issue. To me, the issue is the idea of it. Again, Duncan Idaho's like Gurney Halleck, a legendary blade master. Between the two of them and Thufir Hawat in the books, they've trained up the Atreides army to be almost on par with Sardaukar. This is the threat. This is the threat, right? When you go to this Ganaz school, it's Duncan Idaho and a bunch of other royal family people and rich kids. And I'm like, that is exactly the problem with it. Now, in the Dune books, one of the concepts in it is stagnation. That all these families, all these houses have gotten so good at all of it. The propaganda, the ruling, the governance, the shipping, the, weather controls, food controls. They don't even, I bet, now it's never said, I bet they fake food shortages and fake wars. I'm sure some people actually die. But even the disaster is going to be controlled by them. And it's made it so that it stagnates. That genetics is sort of getting stuck. And like Paul says this in the book. It's like you can see that no matter what angle he looks, no matter what choice he takes, there's going to be an upchuck from the genetics in humans that will cause, a melding of genetic material. This is inescapable, right? In the same vein of that concept is the Ganaz school. If you have a military training in a stagnated society, then it's stagnant training. The French did this, in the 1800s. A bunch of countries did this before World War I. It stagnates. You don't get a fighting style that will win by going to this school. So I'm not even sure why we would send them to it. And you read again, it's a good chunk of the book. You read through a good chunk of the book, and by the end, that's the point the authors make. Because after 8 years of training, Duncan and his boys get captured by banditos essentially. I'm like, bro, you've been training for 8 years and you're not ready to take a surprise attack? And somehow this training is gonna turn him into a legendary blade master? It makes no sense. It makes no sense. And it makes no sense even for the concepts of what Dune is. You know? Now, the story itself, someone going to the Ganaz training could have been interesting. I might have even had it, said it 500 years ago or something like this, just to show. But it doesn't, you can't put that into these characters' lives, right? It doesn't fit in these characters' lives. Maybe the Harkonnen kid, the Fade Ratha, maybe have him go through the Ganaz school. He dies in the end, right? Maybe something. Do something. We get some look at Jessica, her training, her dealing with the Gum Jabbar. I'm fine with all this. This is fine. At some point, she's introduced into the Atreides house. Now, again, in the first book, they have to force the Baron to give them a daughter for their genetic line to get to the Kwisatz Haderach, right? But for some reason, they don't force Jessica in, right? They don't force the Atreides guy to give them a daughter. Not exactly sure why. They don't give real reason why. Just as a thing. Pilru. Pilru was the son of the Lord of House Vernius, who got ousted from Ix, their technologically advanced planet. and he's been opining to get it back ever since. And by opining, I mean literally that. He does nothing. He does nothing, and everyone tells him he's doing nothing. His sister says it. His consort says it. Paul Atreides says it. Everyone's like, bro, you're just a loser sitting there. Why don't you go get your planet back? And then from his point of view, I'm sort of with him. I'm like, how the crap is he supposed to get his planet back when he has no money and he has no army? I don't understand what they expect him to do. But he stresses a lot about it. And then again, another side note. I still don't understand why the Atreides don't go help him fight. I mean, Paul has an army. Why not go help your boy get his planet back? What's the problem? He never even is around the army, right? He goes somehow from this era to the Dune books. And he's never done, like a military review of his army. He doesn't watch their tactics. He's unconcerned with tactics. Never brings them up. Never brings up a soldier. Never looks at the army. Never checks the equipment. Nothing. Not like having an army and dealing with it are a big deal. No. What him and Pilru do is go on like cruises and yacht vacations. Not yachts, but like workman-like boats that apparently get attacked every 5 minutes. He nearly dies every time he goes on vacation. I don't even know why he does it. And I don't know why, Thufir allows him to. He'd be like, Master, you've almost died 19 times fishing. Why don't you stop? No. I like to fish. Baron Vladimir Harkonnen. Idiot. He's supposed to be super smart, but he's actually an idiot in this book. Multiple times, just in multiple ways. He gets a Suk doctor in to help him find out what's wrong with him. Now, one, I'm not sure why he doesn't have a Suk doctor already in house. He says literally it's expensive. And I'm like, bro, he has slaves. He's also really smart. He'd know how to invest, etc., etc. He diversified his portfolio. He owns an entire planet. He's one of the great houses. If they can't afford one of these doctors, who the crap can? In any case, he has to do some weird sneaky thing to get somebody else's. He says because he doesn't want everyone to know he needs a Suk doctor. And I'm like, everyone would have one to begin with. In any case, it's not like the guy you did the sneakery to isn't going to tell everyone anyway. It's Dr. Yoon, obviously, of the traitor Yoon. He goes in and he tells them, like, yeah, you got STDs. And he's like, I don't sleep with women. And I'm like, yeah, you got them anyway. So then he figures out it's the sisters. The dirty sisters. So he then wants to go attack their planet. Like, I don't exactly know what he thinks is going to happen. But again, he's supposed to be smart, but he has no plan as to what he wants to get out of this. He doesn't use this information. His tactic doesn't get anything from them. He doesn't get a drove of sisters to be spies for him. Nothing. I didn't even know what his plan. Does he just want to bomb them? He says he wants a cure. The doctor would tell him there's no cures. It's not like the sisterhood has medical cures that the Suk, the doctor, doesn't have. The Suk doctors are specifically like, they're like the Bene Gesserits of medicine. They're an entire school. People dedicate their entire lives to it. They're supposed to be unbreakable so that the great houses can trust them with the medicine and not get, poisoned by them. Nah, they wouldn't know. The sisterhood would know. But he goes and gets tricked by them, by their switching ways. Then Raban crashes the invisible ship on the planet, and the whole thing ends. He has to leave because he got his invisible ship. And they only have the one invisible ship because the Baron killed the guy who made it because he's just so vicious. And I'm like, okay, the Baron Vladimir Harkonnen is vicious, but he's not wasteful, because wasteful is stupid, and he's not stupid. He is not stupid. If one guy knows how to make this ship, he's not going to kill the guy who knows how to make the invisible ship. It's the only invisible ship in the universe. No, it'll be fine. I killed him. Oof, we lost the invisible ship. Well, that's done and dusted. I don't have to bring that up again. Romber Vernius. Wait, did I say Romber? I think I got these names wrong. Hold on. I did. Romber. Earlier when I said Romber couldn't do nothing to save his planet, I think I said Pilru instead of Romber. I meant Romber. Romber's that idiot. Pilru is on Tleilaxu, and he's just a one-man war against He's having a one-man war on Ix. I don't have many problems with this. He acts appropriately. You buy yourself on an entire planet. You're doing what you can. I don't have much of a problem with him. Yeah, Romber's the idiot. Romber. Sorry, Pilru. I apologize, Pilru. I did not mean to call you an idiot. You are not an idiot. Romber's the idiot. We spent a lot of time with Abelard Harkonnen. I didn't know why at first, but apparently it's so that he can have a son named Fayed Uratha, who becomes, famous in the books. But Abelard's a moron, a bleeding heart moron. His son is Raban, and all he does is pretend. All he does is pretend his son's not a psycho, and then just get heartbroken by his psycho son. Then he sells a stockpile of the Harkonnen spice, which was somehow unguarded, because it's worth jack tons of money. And so Baron Harkonnen would leave it unguarded. Because that's smart. Because the Baron's smart. And anyway, Abelard and a bunch of whalers get it. And then he, sells it to smugglers. And then just gives the money away as a punishment for them taking Fayed. And then Raban kills him, which he didn't think Raban would kill him, because I'm your father. And I'm like, why would Raban care about that? I'm like, he's not even a quiet psychopath. He's a very much out in the open psychopath. You've seen it in his eyes. I don't know why you'd poke a psychopath. So he dies, but he was an idiot. We then get to Leto and Kalia. Kalia being the daughter of House Vernius, who is safe there after, their planet falls and no one helps them. That's the truth. Now, I guess this is a nice enough romance, but again, we know from the books he loves the Lady Jessica. So we know somehow this isn't going to work out. So it's star-crossed lovers, so to speak. Now, I think I would have liked it if it was like puppy love and then they both grew apart amicably. I think that'd have been better. Instead, they make him have a kid with her, and he doesn't want to make her his wife. Again, the reason being, I need the option of taking a wife for political gain. Now, he says that, but then never shows getting political gain out of it once. Not he has a lot of problems with this lady. A lot of domestic problems. But never once do we see the benefit of not making her his wife. Never once. Now, we don't see it in Dune either. It's mentioned, but he's grown, and we, because we accept everything else in the Dune book, we accept this too. But here's where you would have shown it. Now, political advantage, what does that mean? I don't know if y'all remember. This isn't going to get political, so calm down. When Trump became president, and someone from India or the country of India bought up every room in his hotel. Right? That's money that went to Trump. And obviously you're like, they did that to get some sort of influence on him. Now they want to, people might see it as, I gave you this, you owe me that. It's not that big a deal. Because Trump's rich and he can afford having the hotel full or not. That's not going to sway him. $35 ain't going to sway him. What those things do, and countries do it all the time, is make the person, the human being himself, feel a certain way. These world leaders, when you look at them, be they dictators, be they, czars like Putin, essentially, or just in a Senate, in a parliament, they have some sway, but they're also human beings, and human beings can feel. If they don't feel like they like you, they won't like you, and they'll act accordingly. But if they feel likable towards you, then that helps the cause. This is influence. It's not exactly forcing one out of the other. That's like ownership. It's influence. You want them feeling good when they come in and talk. You want good vibes in their head when your name's mentioned, right? You could have shown this 1,000 different ways for Atreides. For him getting some kind of influence out there, this good vibes coming his way because he's this unattached person that could make other houses strong. Right? Never show it once. There's 100,000 worlds in the Imperium. Never show it once, because why would I? Instead, it's just Paul. Is it Paul or Leto? It's Leto. I keep getting his name wrong. Just in the book, he's the Duke Atreides. And Kaelia just get into bickering matches. Then he has a kid, and they just continue to bicker because she wants, to be a wife. And then he eventually starts cheating on her. Not technically cheating because she's a consort, but he starts cheating on her with Jessica. But the whole thing, I feel like, lessens the romance that was there in the original Dune book. That he calls her the Lady Jessica. That, it pains him to not marry her. That he won't take another consort, etc., etc. That, it's where his love for his son is. Now, I never said it, but I always had the idea that Jessica was like his first love. Because it fits the Atreides sort of brand. That they are honorable, true to the course. Even in this corrupt world of the Landsrod, they are an honorable house. They stick to their word. They don't abandon their friends, etc., etc., etc. So that her being his first love, it has to be enough of a love to break the Bene Gesserit training, because she was supposed to have a daughter, and then that daughter would have a son, and that son would be, the Kwisatz Haderach. But she broke her training for him. And I think she would have seen the same amount back towards her, right? So, it's not a one-way street. She didn't just love him more than he loves her. It's equal. He's giving as much as he can. But he is torn because he's the ruler of these people and he has to do right by them. He constantly tries to do right by everyone, right? He's an Atreides. It would have just fit. But having this romance here just lessens it because he's just more petty. Oh, and you're like, well, what about that kid? That kid gets blown up in one of the joyrides. I laughed because it was just so random. You knew he, you knew he couldn't have the kid stay. The kid has to die at some point. I just didn't think they'd blow up a little kid, but they blew him up, which is also weird. It was a traitorous trap by Kalia. She wanted him dead, then her son would be the Duke, etc., etc. But I'm like, one, Thufir Howard's an idiot, because this is like the third attempt to kill this fool, and he never sees any of them coming. And he's supposed to be a mentat assassin, meaning he's like a computer, but also thinks like an assassin. Mentat assassin. It's supposed to be a big deal, but apparently it means you're an idiot. He didn't see anything coming. The second thing is, if it's going to be Kalia, I'm not sure why she didn't poison him. Right? It's typically what women do, is poisons. In human history, when a husband has to die, it's usually poison. What? You do it old Hamlet style, right? While he's taking a nap, you pour it in his ear. Kill him Hamlet style, people. No clues left. There would be suspicions, but what can they do? You're a grieving widow. Dominique Vernius is the one who lost his planet, Ix. He was a tech leader. Again, this whole tech people, and none of them are technologically advanced whatsoever. Side note. Horrible, annoying side note, but side note it is. He's mad because the Emperor, killed his wife and excised him from his planet, which makes no sense, because everyone has family atomics, specifically so you can't get, ousted from your house. It's why you need to use politics. You use marriages to then overtake the family. You put them in a bind so the Emperor has to downgrade them in the eyes of everyone, etc. This kind of thing. You use politics to oust people. You don't just send an army and take them over, because they'll nuke you. They have nukes. Family atomics. In any case, he doesn't nuke anyone. He's just mad at the Emperor. But then that Emperor dies, so then he's just randomly mad at that Emperor's son. House Corino he hates. He hates him so much that he becomes just a petty smuggler. 18 years this man is a petty smuggler, until he goes back, he has a vision of his wife and goes back to Ix and sees how horrible it is and is just distraught. So he's like, I'm pulling the plug. I'm gonna nuke House Corino. But then, of course, at that exact moment, he's caught, killed by Sardaukar, and just blows himself up. So his storyline was basically useless. I'm not sure why you'd wait 18 years to get revenge for your dead wife, who you loved. But that's what he did. And he failed at it. It's just a side note. Because Liet Kynes goes to Seleucus Secundus. His kid goes to Seleucus Secundus. This Vernius guy has a base on Seleucus Secundus. I'm like, bro, it's supposed to be a nuked out prison planet that the Emperor is secretly using to train up, by attrition, his Sardaukar. Meaning, you just leave a populace down there. Secretly. Let whatever kills them, kill them. Be it animals, be it the environment, be it other people. And, every 20 years, every 10 years, you go over and you scoop the cream up. Meaning everyone who's lived through the atrociousness, you scoop up and they become your Sardaukar. This is where his secret army comes from. It's supposed to be like a secret. At least that's how it came off to me in the original Dune book. But apparently everyone knows it. And people like to hang out there. Gurney Halleck's hanging out there. Vernie is hanging out. I'm like, why does everyone have a base on Seleucus Secundus, bro? There's 100,000 planets in the Imperium. They wouldn't go to Seleucus Secundus. As like, I'm going to hide out on Alcatraz. I mean, what? No. The Emperor looks over there. It's stupid. That's what we do. I mean, we go through 3 planets. Out of 100,000, we've seen Arrakis, we've seen Caladan, we've seen Getty Prime, and Seleucus Secundus. That's it. And whatever, I don't know the Carino planet name. Whatever that one is. 5 planets out of 100,000. This is where we visit. This is the extent of it. Weak. This one's called House Harkonnen. The first book was called House Atreides, and they randomly, in passing, mention a rivalry between the two. But if you were from the outside in, you would never get a sense of a rivalry. There's no animosity really thrown to each other. There's hardly any interactions. They tangentially say, I don't like this or that. But then every so often, the Atreides are drinking Harkonnen wine, beer, or getting various minerals or supplies from the planet Harkonnens. I'm like, why would they trade it all with them? It may be like, I can understand like a Cold War style. Like, if ever I have a chance, I'm going to trip them. But otherwise, I don't really care. But it's not one or the other, right? They sometimes vehemently hate them and sometimes don't care that they exist. It's just confusing for something that's supposed to be, very rivalry-esque. There's very little rivalry going on. And it's called House Harkonnen, right? But they're barely mentioned. The house is barely mentioned. I would have preferred almost like a biography. Like, what is it? The Arms of Krupp up here. You see that? You see this book right here? It follows the family of arms makers in Germany. Almost from the beginning of when Germany existed. I haven't finished it yet. This would have been a cool version of that. Show me the Harkonnens from as far back as the history that you have or want to think of. From the Butlerian Jihad on. Maybe before. What were they doing on Earth? Were they the Spartans on Earth? If the Atreides trace themselves back to Greece, maybe you trace yourself back to Sparta. And literally just in vignette form if you have to. Show me every Harkonnen leader. As much as you can up till the Baron. And then the stuff that happens in this would fit in that book very, very well. Because it's not that big a deal. Right? There's little chunklets. But when you pick up the book called House Harkonnen, you expect more Harkonnen crap. And you don't get a lot of it. A family history would have gone down a lot better. The lady Margot Finring meets up with the Missionaria Protectiva, which I don't have a problem with. Her, figuring out what's going on this planet. What I do have a problem with is that they know who the ladies are, right? You send sisters to various planets to seed fake religions so that if any point in the future other sisters show up, they're looked at favorably, right? Instead of burned at the stake like witches tend to be. To me, that should take, 400 years, 300 years, 800 years isn't that long. As soon as a planet's discovered almost, you would try and sneak a sister over there and starts whispering to the populace. Instead, this one's like, I'm going to say 80, 90, 100 years ago. It's not that long ago. And I'm like, it would have taken longer for those concepts to become pervasive in the Fremen than 100 years. It would have taken a little bit longer than that. Especially for people that are so suspicious of everything. So I didn't like how fast they sort of did that. Oh, right. Right, I almost forgot. So the Duke's kid gets blown up, but along with him, Romber gets blown up. I don't know how. He was they're in an airship or some kind of boat. I'm not sure. They crash land. Romber's been blown up. And then the way to describe him, it's he has no limbs. It's just a spinal column and half a head. Half a face at least. And I'm like, okay, I know they're in the future. But, like, you can only lose so much blood, people. Right? You can only lose so much blood. You can't live through an explosion that only leaves your spinal column. Can you? In any case, he does. Randomly. Him and Liet's friend. Liet's friend ends up in a sandstorm, and the sandstorm like eats half his face and half his body, and somehow he lives somehow too. I'm like, bro, it scraped his face down to the bone. How would he not die of infection? I don't know. It's so stupid. In any case, Romber gets half blown up, and then you're like, why? And I'm like, oh, it's so we can make him half a cyborg. I'm like, I get it. He runs the techno planet, and he should be half techno. I'm like, that makes sense. Like, you could have done that a long time ago. He could have had, sort of biotic implants already. He could have been like a super soldier already. You didn't have to wait to blow him up. But also, you've already established, I mean these authors, have established that, certain people are so afraid of technology because of when the machines ruled, which is why we have mentats. We can't use supercomputers or AI or anything like that in this world. Some people are so afraid of that they allowed one of the great houses to fall. I'm not sure then why they would be okay with someone being like half a robot. It'd freak them the crap out, I think, if they're that hyper religious about it. But we don't bring that up. We just think it's going to be cool to have a robot Romber. And it might be. I don't know. Essentially how the book ends. Romber lives somehow. What a dumb book. It's like, why did I read it? I'm like, it's just, that's how much I like the original Dune. It is actually how much I like the original Dune. But I don't recommend this for casuals. I don't recommend this for anybody. Again, if you read all 6 Dune books twice, then wait like a year or 2 or 7, then use this to semi-scratch the itch in a weird way. I mean, it's talking Dune stuff. And I guess for that I enjoyed it. But it's badly done. Okay. Now let's hope I don't do these ads badly. Ad time. These are my books. None of my books are as good as Dune, let's be honest. If you're going to buy a book, go buy Dune if you haven't read it. But mine, you can buy and help the channel. Or, at least at the time of the filming of this video, you can get Kindle Unlimited and read them on there. And then if they suck, you can read other books and get, your money's worth. I'm not trying to rip nobody off here. Or you can subscribe. Or, just watch. It's all good to me. Okay, people. I will talk to you all next week.